I want to tell you about the Thanksgiving I found out I had a brother. Not a half-brother in the abstract sense that people sometimes mean. A specific person. A man named Daniel who was 34 years old and had my father's nose and had been sitting at my parents' kitchen table for Thanksgiving dinner for the past 5 years. 5 years. I had been introduced to him as a family friend. I had passed him the cranberry sauce. I had asked him about his job. I had said it was nice to meet him the first time and nice to see you again every time after that. For 5 years I had been saying nice to see you again to my brother without knowing he was my brother. I want to back up. I am 32 years old. I am an only child. I have always been an only child. My parents, Richard and Susan, married young, had me at 24, and raised me in the house I grew up in with no siblings. No mention of siblings. No suggestion that the family was anything other than the three of us. I never asked if there were others. It did not occur to me to ask. You do not ask questions about doors you do not know exist. The door opened on a Tuesday evening in November. I was helping my mother clear the dishes after an early Thanksgiving dinner. My father was in the living room with Daniel. I could hear them talking the way they always talked, easily, comfortably, with the specific rhythm of two people who know each other well. I had always thought my father simply liked Daniel. Some people have friends who become family. I had thought Daniel was one of those. My mother was at the sink. I was drying. She said something I was not expecting. She said, "I hope you know how much we love you." I said, "I know, Mom." She said, "We made decisions a long time ago that we thought were right and I want you to know they came from love." I put down the dish I was drying. I said, "What decisions?" She was quiet for a moment. She said, "Your father and I were very young when we met." I said, "I know." She said, "There was a time before we were together officially. A situation. A pregnancy." I said, "Mom." She said, "We were 19. We were not ready. We made a decision." I stood in the kitchen for a long time after she said that. I looked through the doorway at my father sitting with Daniel in the living room. I looked at Daniel's profile. My father's nose. The way he tilted his head when he listened. My father does that. I do that. I had never noticed before because I had not been looking. I asked my mother how long Daniel had known. She said he had found them 5 years ago. I asked her how long they had known he was coming to Thanksgiving. She said since the first time. I asked her when they had planned to tell me. She was quiet. I asked her again. She said they had been trying to find the right moment. I asked her if 5 years of right moments had not presented itself. She said it was complicated. I told her 5 years of Thanksgiving dinners with my biological brother while telling me he was a family friend was not complicated. It was a choice. A specific, repeated, annually renewed choice. I went to the living room. My father looked up. He saw my face. He said, "Claire." I looked at Daniel. Daniel looked at me. He said, "You know." I said, "Yes." He said, "I'm sorry." I said, "You don't have to apologize." I said that to Daniel because I meant it. Daniel had not created this situation. Daniel had been 19 years old and given up for adoption before he could have an opinion about any of it. Daniel had spent 34 years without a family and had found one and had been navigating a situation I could not fully imagine. I did not blame Daniel. I told him I did not blame him. He said he had wanted to tell me from the beginning. He said he had asked my parents if they had told me. He said they had said they were working on it. Working on it. For 5 years. I asked my parents that evening if we could talk. My father sat on the couch. My mother sat next to him. I sat across from them. I told them I needed to understand why. My father said they had been afraid. I asked him afraid of what? He said afraid of how I would react. I told him I was reacting now, and it was not the reaction I would have had if they had told me when Daniel first found them. He said he knew. My mother said they had thought they were protecting me. I asked her from what? She said from something complicated. I told her the complicated thing had been happening at my Thanksgiving table for 5 years and the only person being protected was them. She cried. I did not. I wanted to. I was not ready to yet. I did not go home that night. I stayed in my old room. I lay in the dark and thought about 32 years of being an only child and 5 years of passing cranberry sauce to my brother and calling him a family friend. I thought about the conversations we had had. He had asked me once about my childhood. I had told him about growing up in this house. He had listened carefully. I had thought he was just being polite. I understand now what he was actually doing. He was learning about a childhood that had happened in the house where he was not. The next morning I knocked on my parents' door. My father opened it. I told him I needed some time. He said he understood. I told him I was not angry at Daniel. He said knew. I told him I was angry at them. He said he knew that too. My mother came to the door. She said she was sorry. I told her sorry was a starting point. I told her I needed to understand what had happened before I could know what came next. She said whatever I needed. I said I needed time. I have been in contact with Daniel since Thanksgiving. We have had 3 phone calls. They have been careful conversations. 2 people who share something significant trying to figure out what that something is going to mean. He is kind. He is funny in a way that is familiar to me in ways I am still noticing. He said in our second call that he had always hoped I would find out. He said he had felt strange knowing something about me that I did not know about myself. I told him I understood why he had not told me himself. He said he had thought about it. I told him I was glad he had respected my parents' process even when their process was 5 years of doing nothing. He laughed. It sounded like my father laughing. I told him that. He was quiet for a moment. Then he said I know. He said I've noticed that too. My parents and I are in family therapy now. 3 sessions so far. It is not easy. I do not think it is supposed to be easy. What I keep coming back to is not the adoption. I understand 19. I understand not ready. I understand the decision they made before I existed. What I cannot yet understand is the 5 years. The 5 Thanksgivings. The cranberry sauce. The nice to see you again. The working on it. Was I wrong to tell them I was angry? Or did 5 years of Thanksgiving dinners with a brother they called a family friend answer that question before I even put down that dish? Down finger drop your verdict in the comments, NTA or YTA. Bell subscribe to the verdict for new stories every week. Because every story deserves a verdict.